Guys, you remember last year when we watched the Lego Holiday Special and I coveted Poe Dameron's sweater?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, my wife knits. I bet she could figure it out. Look at this.
Did she do it?
This is it.
Did Hillary make that?
She made it just from visual. She just looked at it.
That is pretty cool.
Made a pattern herself, and it's exactly right. I feel like if she was selling them on Etsy, we'd just be millionaires. But
my gosh, yeah.
I mean, I would never ever say that to Hillary, but that is pretty stinking awesome.
Yeah, I'll make sure she does not know you complimented her.
Yeah,
Jesse said your sweater sucks.
Right? I mean, look at this though. Come on.
That is legit. I'm very impressed. That's super awesome.
Welcome to this Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network. My name is Steve Rudd.
I'm Nick Gunning. It's Life Day, and today we're following the Ewoks from Return of the Jedi to the TV movies, cartoons, comics, and beyond.
Today, we're discussing selections from Star Wars The Life Day Treasury with our annual holiday guest, Jesse Ryals. Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Back by unpopular demand, Jesse Ryals. Couldn't keep it away. We tried.
The least popular guest. It was only a matter of time. I mean, we've had more people on, more than twice, but we figured it would be nice to just have you back on.
It's
again.
Amazing.
It's so mean to me.
We have Jesse on. We look at the numbers, and it's just like steady, plop, and then right back up. But you know what?
I am quite the plop, though. Thank you very much.
This is friendship, and we said forget it. We want him here, even if nobody else does. And to be clear, nobody does.
Yeah, no, let's be very clear on that.
No, it's the holidays. Come on.
Yeah.
Our topic for today, as Steve said, is the Life Day Treasury. The Treasury was illustrated by Grant Griffin. Very cool illustrations, actually. I thought it was just like each story had sort of a lead image, but I thought they really kind of captured the story well and definitely had a cool vibe and added to it. Written by Cavan Scott and George Mann. Now, Cavan Scott, also the author of Night of the Gorax. Back when we did that for Halloween a few years back, we put the episode out, and he'd responded and said, hey, if you like that, you should check out my Ewok Christmas story, Life Day story, the Krulok in this collection. So thanks for the suggestion. And here we are.
Yeah.
So is the Gorax the one that speaks for the trees? Is that?
No.
That's the Lorax. I understand why you're confused. But
the Gorax eats the tree.
Bigger mustache on the Lorax. That's how you tell them apart.
Yeah.
Bigger mustache.
But the only difference.
Just that. It's only that. Yeah. The mustache. The Life Day Treasury includes 8 holiday stories and was released on September 7th, 2021. And today we're looking primarily at the Ewoks in the Krulok and the Wookiees in Tree of Life.
Oh, yeah. Throwing in a Wookiee one. Yeah.
We got to do it.
Wookiee mistake. Am I right?
Featured, creative crew member. I don't know. Our featured spotlight person is, of course, Cavan Scott here. He's done several comics and novels in the Star Wars world, including Night of the Gorax. But in 2020, he worked on another beloved group of 80s characters when he did a 4-issue crossover between the Transformers and Back to the Future.
Oh.
So, I don't know how I haven't read this, but I haven't, and that seems like a mistake.
Yeah,
I know. That's
interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, they went.
I mean, they're the same Earth.
Kind of wild. Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Yeah.
There was a Transformers Star Trek, and it was like the Transformers 80s series and the Star Trek 70s animated series like mashed up, and it worked so well. Like I wish it was.
Really?
Yeah, it was really fun. So I haven't read this crossover yet, but I mean, I like Cavan Scott's work, and I mean, I love. Back
Great Scott, Nick. What are you doing?
Perfect tie-in. See, that's why we got to have him.
Yeah,
it all makes sense. All right, Steve, you want to take us into our uber detailed plot on a couple of stories here?
Yeah, let's do it. So we got the Krulok from Mann and Scott's Life Day Treasury. An Ewok hunting party returns from its hunt with meager success. Wicket is quite obviously jealous of his older brother Weechi for being able to hunt with the other Ewok warriors, such as Chuka Trok, plus the attention he gets from Nisa upon his return. At the feast that night, the young Ewoks quarrel amongst each other about who's braver or stronger, but are interrupted by Chief Chirpa and Logray. The young Ewoks are captivated by Logray's story of the Krulok. a great beast who wanders the snowy forest at night looking to snatch up unsuspecting walklings. Although they say we're not walklings. That night, Wicket sets out to hunt for the Krulok himself in order to prove to everyone and anyone that he should be allowed to hunt with the rest of the warriors. Not willing to be stupid, Weechi opts to stay home while Nisa and Tebow, although reticent, tag along with their pal. In the dark, snowy forest, the young Ewoks stumble upon a massive footprint. Instead of returning to the village, they decide to set a trap. They finish disguising their trap, and in perfect time, as they hear a large roar and stomping of feet coming in their direction. Wicket quickly takes his place to lure the Krulok, and he does so successfully. The Krulok stumbles into their pit trap. But when they move to investigate, they find Weechi dressed up in a ridiculous costume. He admits his attempt to prank them, but Nisa quickly realizes something is afoot. Get it? Because of the footprint.
Yeah, I got it.
Match it. Yeah, okay.
Right up. Yeah.
Anyways, immediately after this discovery, they hear an even larger creature roar ferociously in the woods, bearing down on their location. The young Ewoks help Weechi out and quickly race back home to Bright Tree Village before they can even set eyes upon the creature. This is when we discover the mythic Krulok is actually none other than Chirpa and Logray, also in disguise. They successfully scared the young Ewoks into obeying their regulation on wandering away from the village in deep snowy weather at night. The two laugh as Logray admits the story of the Krulok still haunts him.
This was like Inception style. It was like a dream in a dream, like everything's fake. You don't know what's real.
Everything's fake. That's so true. Yeah. I mean, it kind of works though. Like if the Krulok really was real or was just something else, it would still work. But the fact that it was just like, you know what it reminded me of? Remember when you were young and like it was Boy Scouts? It was the Snipes.
Yep.
Snipes will get you.
I have seen that episode of Cheers, but that's
is that in Cheers?
That's about all I know. Yeah. Before we get too deeply into this, I'm curious. Did you guys just read these two stories, or did you read the whole thing?
I read the whole thing.
I only read the two story.
I also read the whole thing. All right, so Jesse and I win. I thought it was pretty strong. Jesse, how did you feel about the whole book?
No.
I'm
a grouchy old man with a lot of stories, so like a lot of the like heartwarming. Oh, the Jedi comes to the house in the end. It's like,
yeah.
I saw the plot twist like with the Krulok that like it was actually the Logray, like it was the adults the whole time. It was like, is this just gonna? Okay, yep, cool.
I felt like the collection was pretty solid. I mean, I even the ones that we're not talking about today. I mean, it's a quick read. I mean, the print book is pretty quick, like 150 pages or something, and it's big print and lots of blank space. But I thought it did a nice job of kind of incorporating like, okay, I get it. We're doing kind of a Santa thing here. Like, okay, we're whatever. You could see it pulling on tropes or archetypes of classic holiday stories, but in a Star Wars style. So I thought it was pretty good.
I thought this could be an episode though of Ewoks. Like this could be animated and it would work, right?
It was also the least like Christmassy or holiday of anyone in the book, I thought.
Oh, really? I thought it like the Krulok reminded me of like Krampus or something like that. Like,
all right. Yeah,
just a Christmas animal by just simply being Krulok. I was like, oh, and it's like Krampus, Yeah. I don't know. I thought that makes
I read this one out loud to my wife and son. And, my wife was like, wow, they're really going for it because they were pulling out, like, we were hearing Nisa. We heard about Wicket's sister, Winda. Like, all this stuff from the show is in this. And so, they really... It clearly like paid attention to the show and pulled out elements from that, which like nobody but us would have noticed had they not done that.
I didn't notice.
So, there you go.
See, I mean, I call it Wicket because he's in Star Wars,
man.
But
yeah,
I'm not. I'm unaverage.
Yeah, and Wicket was kind of maybe. I mean, we get a little Chewbacca and we get Ben Kenobi in one of the early stories, though not named. But I feel like Wicket kind of was among the most recognizable characters in this because everybody else was kind of original. So.
Yeah.
How did we feel about the Krulok overall? Do you like it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was fun. It was good. They were all, as you said, like they're all well written. They're just not the kind of stories that I would necessarily seek out.
Yeah.
I think I also I don't know whether it's like the kinds of TV shows I'm always expecting the like plot twist. And so I saw this one coming. I also have spent some time watching Australian movies and stuff at various points. And Australian movies always go like super dark. So like the Australian version of this one would have been like, oh, they set a trap and it caught his brother and they end up killing him. And so like it'd just be like, oh,
very different.
Okay. Yeah.
Worst Christmas ever.
Yeah, that's right.
I appreciated the connections to the show, and I thought like I didn't really see the twist coming, and especially like the double twist. I guess I wasn't really looking for. I wonder what's going to happen. I was just sort of going along, but I felt like it was a pretty good read. And Steve, I had the same thought. This would have been a great issue of the comic book or the show.
Yeah,
so
this would have been great. I kind of wish now, because it's like, this is a great Christmas episode. You know, all these shows these days have a Christmas episode.
You have to.
This would have just worked. Yeah. Oh,
I agree. I agree.
This is literally it.
I really liked this one.
Okay.
I really like this one, and I do kind of like that it has that like little moral thing of like, this is why we don't leave the camp, even though the monster wasn't real. That's still not the point. The point is they need to obey and not leave the village at night.
And things.
I think it's great though that like, I thought it was so funny when Weechee's like, when they're like, yeah, don't you want to come out hunting at night? And Weechee's like, no, I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
Everyone else is definitely stupid. Like, Wicket, this is why you're not a warrior yet, because you're going hunting at night. So, I just thought that was great. To me, that was like perfect. Like, that's exactly, like, no, not an idiot. You can't see anything.
I thought its placement in the whole collection was kind of good too, because they had been, there were Jedi and sort of bigger, grander kind of stories, things going on. And this was a very small focus, a very, just narrow little thing, no flashbacks or anything, just kind of a quick little thing. And it, structurally, I thought it felt well, like in the overall collection.
Yeah.
Your point about it being like a good, like cartoon kind of episode, I think is a really good one. Like, I mean, I haven't seen the show. I'm sorry, gentlemen.
No, that's a good call. That's a good call.
Yeah, I'm the what is it, Weechi in this one. It's like, no, that's stupid. Why would I watch that? But I do think it fits in well with that kind of setup. Like, it's self-contained, it's small, and there is kind of that at the end. It's like, oh, look at that surprise twist ending or whatever. So
I think it's definitely, we're seeing the Ewoks from the show versus the Ewoks that you see in Return of the Jedi. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's that's pretty.
This was very cartoon. Like comic book esque Ewoks, which is I like that
60+ episodes.
So, all right, let's get into the Tree of Life from Mann and Scott's The Life Day Treasury. Old Attichuk, or Itchy, reminisces of life days past as he and Lumpy rise to celebrate the auspicious day, formerly celebrated every 3 years, but now annually across the galaxy. Lumpy's spirit is down, however, because he misses his father Chewbacca, who is currently off supporting the New Republic's post-Imperial restoration efforts. Malatobuk, Chewie's wife, attempts to brighten the mood by scrounging up her old collection of lit orbs, which Lumpy wants nothing of. It doesn't work, but Itchy hopes later that the procession will cheer up Lumpy, who is no longer a little Ewok, or little Wookiee, but a growing young Wookiee. However, at the procession, after giving up the favored orb to the Tree of Life, like all the other Wookiee families did, and attempting to participate in speaking the words, Lumpy is overwhelmed and steals away under the tree for a bit of respite. There, he discovers his mother's orb, and this time takes the opportunity to hold it. Startled by the drums in the procession, Lumpy drops the orb, shattering it on the ground into a million pieces. Tired of ceremony and now overcome with grief, knowing his mother had trusted him, Lumpy is met by the shadow of a stranger. But this is no stranger, as his father Chewbacca casts his warm shadow over Lumpy. Without words, Chewie leads his son away from the heartbreaking remains of their family's priceless heirloom, rich with memories now scattered upon the forest floor. Still wondering what his father will say, Lumpy is led to a freighter of whom he recognizes the pilot. Han Solo greets young Lumpy with joy, exclaiming how much he's grown. Chewie, however, searches the Falcon and removes a bulb from within their cabin. He hands the bulb to his son, who inserts the old orb's light source into the new bulb salvaged from the Falcon. For a brief moment, in the reflection of the newly lit bulb, Lumpy believes he sees images of his father on his many adventures. It's time to save Life Day. Lumpy, Chewie, and Han return to find the ceremony is over. Mala is relieved that Lumpy is okay and elated that Chewbacca has returned. Lumpy is sorry for breaking their family orb, but all is forgiven as Lumpy hangs their new orb on the tree. Together they embrace and remember the true purpose of Life Day, making memories together. Roll credits.
And I feel like this one was necessary to like call it a Life Day Treasury. Like we gotta kind of go back to where it all started. I wish it was better. I didn't really like the story. Really didn't do much for me. You know what I mean? Like
this one. Yeah. So the first one, I really liked the story, but the message was, I think, a little bit weaker. This one, I think the story was a little bit weaker, but the message was like, this is kind of like, it's called the Life Day Treasury. This is the culmination of the book, and I do think it was maybe a little short.
Yeah,
I thought maybe it could have been a little bit longer. George Mann and Cavan Scott, conveniently left out any, lumpy soft.
That's true.
Whatever his father's itchy softcore porn scene, which was. Thank you, gentlemen. We really appreciate that was just not considered. I forgot that this was the last story in the book, and it does seem a little short. Or
it's
abrupt,
kind of a tag that like else. It's just kind of like
it is kind of like a tag, like a postscript, like
Life Day happened.
Yeah. Here's the thing. This is like a pet peeve of mine, and I'm gonna fall into Steve's territory, where I get really really picky.
Uh-oh.
But like, I don't know that I've read a book that translates the Wookiees. Like normally, it's just context clues.
Yeah.
And I felt like especially something like this that's only like storytelling and narration, like we did not need dialogue, and I felt like the dialogue really threw it off for me. And then like Chewbacca comes, he doesn't say anything, and then he has one line where they translate Chewie too, and I just felt like it's not what you do. You don't do that, So that bothered me. I think the story could just as easily have been told in like a third person narration of the events that were happening and getting the feelings and stuff, because as irritating as it was when we watched the holiday special and we just had 35 minutes of like Wookiee gargling, that was a pain.
Yeah.
But I kind of felt like this was also wrong because you never hear that. You never hear like the translation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I would have left Han out entirely. I don't think I would have even.
Yeah.
I thought the inclusion of.
Oh, that's probably. Like, yeah. Well, he was in the other holiday special, right? Didn't he come like it? Yeah. So, it works. It's perfect that he's there.
I think I'm with Nick on this one, where it's like there's almost an element of like he recognized the freighter pilot. Oh, look at that. It's our plucky hero, Han.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay. But then, like, to not have the, like, Han talking and the Wookiees wooking, like, have those be treated the same. I feel like was Han yodeling back or what was going on there?
Exactly.
No, he just speaks English, right?
Yeah, he does, but they don't distinguish that.
Not English basic. He speaks basic.
Oh, excuse me. It's not common.
Yeah.
Basic.
I remember in some of the Zahn books is that he would do when they were speaking and like everybody understood what the alien was saying. He would do it in brackets.
You're right.
And I felt like something like that could have been really helpful because it's like then you're understanding or having some nod to like, and then Chewie responded back in Wookiee-ish, Wookish.
Yeah,
Wookish. What's the
Wookiees?
Kashyyykin, Caching.
We're certainly like getting in the weeds on this, but I think it just kind of makes the point that it stood out. I remember in like the Kevin J. Anderson Young Jedi stuff with Jason and Jaina, there was like Chewie's nephew was in that, and how they got around it was he had a little like droid that he wore, and the droid would translate what the Wookiee was saying. So you still kind of got the dialogue, but they didn't just do what they did here and just like write it out right. And yeah, you're right, Jesse, with Zahn and the brackets and everything. It just kind of makes a little distinguishing thing there. And so, yeah, that stood out to me. But you're right, Steve. I mean, the message was nice, and it was, you know, it was a good sort of heartwarming ending to the collection. So
yeah. I just put all the ornaments on the tree with the kids like the night before I read this. So for me, it was kind of like, oh, you know, there was just like we were going through and looking. Well, no, it was just like we were reminiscing and like, you know, oh, this ornament from 2014 and this one, and you know, our kids, our baby's first Christmas. You know, like you're reminiscing, and I did think like, oh man, there's gonna be a day where the kids are gonna try and put this one on the tree, and they're gonna drop it, and it's going to shatter. And then literally the next day, I read this, and I was like, oh yeah, I totally feel that of like a priceless heirloom.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was funny too that in this very short story, they devoted a little time to Lumpy not wanting to be called Lumpy anymore and wanting to be called Waru because his name is
Lumpawaru.
Did we have a Okavark moment, our least favorite moment from these two stories? Jesse, what about you? Do you got one? What's the one where you were like, eh?
I mean, I feel like maybe it is very fitting that the story about actually Life Day, kind of the closest one to the holiday special, was perhaps the weakest.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I didn't think they were bad. I as you said, I think maybe not an Okavark, but like an Kavark.
Yeah.
The Life Day was just kind of okay. That was a story that I read.
Yeah.
Did you guys get the feeling that like Chewbacca is an absolutely iconic Star Wars character, but I care nothing about his family. Like it's like where other characters, I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm so interested in.
Yeah.
But like I started reading this and I was like, all right, we get like a chance number 2 at holiday special, and I was just like, I just don't care about Chewbacca's family for some. It's just not interesting. It's like not an interesting read.
I think they're just really shoehorned into the holiday special, and the holiday special presented Chewbacca's family in a very like 1970s sitcom kind of way. You know, it's like
Chewbacca soiled it forever.
The Brady Bunch, and so it's very domestic in a way that doesn't really make sense for like a this is so nerdy, but it doesn't really make sense.
It's so true, though.
For like a species that's so completely different from us, for them to just kind of like be watching TV and crap. So I get it.
Do the follow up parody of the Wookiee Bunch.
So the
Wookiee Bunch.
Yeah. Looking at all the boxes. That'd be good. I mean, mine just
is a story of a crazy Wookiee.
Mine is also in this one, and it is just the weird choice to just like straight up translate with no explanation. That just tossed me out of it because I felt like, what's the point of you doing it if you're not going to like treat it like you normally treat Wookiees? I just felt like that was really weird. What about you, Steve?
So for me, like there was. So I remember when I was a kid watching Battlestar Galactica for the first time, the OG.
Oh yeah,
Battlestar Galactica, and they made the mistake of in the show using different words for different things instead of like, oh yeah, I got like $10. It was like, I got like 10 Tragdars. Mm-hmm. And you're like, and they'll be like, oh yeah, 10 Tragdars and 17 Bricklebucks. And you're like, that means nothing to me, right? We're in this, I think they did a good job of inserting little member berries of like, oh yeah, like this and that, but there's so at one point in the first story, the Krulok, where there's so many of those, I was like, it's distracting, and I don't know if I should know what that is, but I feel like I remember, but I can't, and it drew me away, I think, from the story that there were so many things. There was one line that killed me in the first story, and Cavan Scott's gonna be like, why? It was when the Krulok is taller than a Bora Beast, when I was like, I don't know how tall a Bora Beast is.
True.
But how else can you can't be like, taller than a brown bear, because we'd be like, wait a minute, what? But it says, with spike antlers as wide as a Gorax larder. I was like, that's that last part, I was like, wait, it's wider than a Gorax's pantry? Like, I don't know how big that is. Yeah. I just thought that was funny. That but I was just like, Why did you put that? Why did you guys put that in there? It's like as large as a Gorax's front door. And it's like, yeah, that's big.
Yeah.
Or I
feel like I know what you mean.
I just thought that was funny.
I feel like they did that all the time in the show. So like it didn't stand out to me as unusual.
Oh, that's true. I guess maybe that's true.
Like doing that.
Isn't one of those like this is what Americans will do, any unit of measurement to not use metric?
It's simply in a show or when they insert the member berries of like, oh, that's a thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, Bora, thing, and I'm like, I don't remember what that looks like or how big it is.
But I did like the shout
I'm just going to assume it's big.
Beast and the Gorax. So like
Bora Beast and the Gorax. And they had the Bora Beast, Gorax, they had the Condor. I mean, they had them all.
Yeah.
Well, they really did put like
Macra got a shout out too. The old Logre's predecessor got a little shout out there too.
Chukatrak got a shout out. He's my boy. Thanks, boys. Thanks. Oh, Mann and Scott dropping the OG, the best of the best.
All right. Well, on the topic of things you like, what's your Ichiwawa moment?
Chukatrak.
Okay,
bro. Okay. He was so for me. Chukatrak. Every time he's brought up, Jesse, you don't know. Every time he's brought up.
Oh no, me and Chuka go way back.
He's always my favorite. He's always my favorite character, and if you ever have time to see the first what is it?
Caravan of
Carnival.
Courage?
Oh, Caravan of Courage. Yeah, I was like Carnival of Courage.
Carnival of Madness.
Carnival of Courage. No, yeah. So Caravan of Courage, Chukatrak is like the woodcutter that lives in the woods, but he's like a warrior, and he's just like the most badass character in that movie. And so like forever, that was it. That was only Chukatrak, and then randomly, in like 2 episodes of the show, he's in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, he's there. Like, it's official. He wasn't just in a movie. Now he's written to the show. Yep. So it's like, every time I see him, it's just like perfect. And this is like what? Like 6 pages, and he made it.
Yep.
Chukatrak made it into the 6-page story. Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Nick?
I like the double tricking. I like that.
That was good.
The fact that it was Weechi, I thought was funny, but then I thought the fact that Logre and Chirpa kind of teamed up to teach them all a lesson was cool, and it harkens back to the Gorax, Night of the Gorax, the comic that we read, because that was a Chirpa and Logre as young walklings going out on an adventure themselves. So I thought it was cool just in the storytelling, because I thought, oh, the Krulak is really out there, and it's going to be like a dun dun dun. But then we had the reveal of Logre and Chirpa. Yeah. So I liked that, but then I also liked how it kind of ties in nicely with Night of the Gorax because of that, because it's the 2 of them doing something together. So Jesse, what did you like? What's your Ichiwawa moment?
I don't know if I had one. Like, they were both not bad stories, but I don't think there was anything that was like, yes. I'm not as familiar with Chukaduke.
Chukaduke, yep.
Nope.
Koopa Troopa, is that what is that the
Koopa?
Chukatrak, man.
It was Super Troopers by ABBA.
We'll fix that in editing. That's what I said.
All right.
I mean, they were decent, and I think the Krulak one, the story went fairly well. Like, it went smoothly, and I liked that. And I was a little worried that Life Day would get, I don't know. My oldest is a teenage boy, and so we're getting into a little bit of the kind of stuff, and I was worried that Lumpy might start getting a little too angsty,
too real. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they kept it short, and he dropped the Christmas ornament, and Dad gave him a light bulb, and so
it's all fixed. Yeah,
everything's better.
I'm telling you, man, that the Wookiees just don't. The Wookiee expanded universe just doesn't kind of translate well. It just
doesn't cut it for you. That's all right.
It's about as good as the gurgling and roaring from the holiday special. It's tough. It really is tough. I'm just not interested in the Wookiee expanded universe.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is that they're like, the Wookiees are so dangerous and crazy, and it's like they just look really kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, how are they supposed to be these powerful, these warriors when it's like, you okay over there?
That's true. They are sort of like lumbering.
Long and lanky, so they don't give a very ominous.
I think
form.
As a whole, I liked this whole collection more than both of you, and maybe it's because I actually read the entire thing out loud, so I wasn't just like sitting reading it by myself. Like we were driving a long distance, and I had it with me, and I was like, I want to read some Star Wars Life Day stories, everybody. So
there's nothing you can do about it.
I did that in a couple of different settings, and I feel like reading them out loud to like other people who were responding made them feel more Christmassy and more festive overall. So yeah, I had a good time with it, and it's not like I'm going to read this book every year, but I did feel like the task.
Bring it out.
Everyone gather around the fire. I felt like the task of telling Star Wars stories that felt Christmassy without being too corny. It's a real tightrope walk, and I think they did it for the most part. So I would recommend it. I think it's good.
So based on all the other stories, what I was wondering, like, who is this book written for? Right, we talk about that a lot, Nick. Like, man, what did they make this episode? Who did they target in this episode? But like, these to me seemed like very almost childish stories. But like, the cover of the book to me does not translate to like a kid is going to see it and want to read it. So is this kind of geared towards maybe like the young adult reader, or people like you and I that like to get into that lore?
Yeah. So it's cataloged as a sort of like an in-between kind of read. So not a picture book, and not strictly speaking a young adult book, but more like that junior level, like 8 to 12-year-old range. That's how it's cataloged.
I also read this on the iPad. This was the first digital book I ever read.
Wow.
I've made it 40 years without ever reading something off a Kindle my phone.
Kindle hasn't been around for 40 years, so I feel like the first 25,
true,
30 wasn't hard.
30.
That's
we were all right with you for the first 30 years.
Yeah, you're not going to take that away from me. I did it for 40 years, okay? And that was really tough. I got to admit. I don't know why.
You didn't like it. You didn't vibe with it. Okay.
I like books.
I like a book too, but I'm a big proponent of ebooks. I feel like it's really it's handy.
So I didn't read the whole thing.
Nice
I was like, I can barely get through like 6 pages.
I'm
not reading the whole thing.
When the Kindle and Barnes and Noble's Nook were first coming out, when it was like this whole big revolutionary thing that was going to happen, I was on the wait list for a Barnes and Noble Nook, and I got one of like the very first ones, and the first shipment, like I got it. And I've read a lot of ebooks. I think they're pretty great, but it doesn't. It's just like it changes the experience for sure.
It does. It changes. For me, it was reading books is all about like illegally folding it in the worst way possible and seeing everyone like, oh, I can't believe you're reading it like that. I'm like,
I'm never letting you borrow a book.
Don't let me borrow a book. I will destroy all my books. All my Star Wars books have all those creases going down.
At least they're well loved. That's something.
Yep,
it's not bad.
They are.
They're not well loved, or you take care of them.
Good point, Jesse.
They're not well loved. They're
well mangled.
Very irresponsibly taken care of.
No, but I think when you're asking like who is this written for, I think putting it in the context of like reading aloud, like on a road trip, is like the perfect context for this.
Yeah,
because some of these, like even some of the Star Wars series, like I remember one of my parents' friends talking about Return of the Jedi in a negative fashion. And I would just remember being like, what? How could you possibly, but like grew up with that.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when you talked about the Ewoks as ridiculous, like I couldn't even understand that.
Yeah.
Now as I'm older, I'm like, oh. But then seeing some of the new Star Wars movies, which I might not be a super big fan of, but watching them with my kids, it's like, okay. And so like there was, the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
The TV series that came out a few years ago, like I thought it was okay, but there were a couple of the episodes that I watched with my kids where, like the final episode, I don't know how do we do spoilers here?
Well,
anyway, there's a big moment.
Spoiler alert! Yeah,
spoiler alert.
It's been out. You have you have no excuse.
When Boba Fett comes in on the Rancor in the final episode, when I saw it, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, I knew it was coming, blah, blah, blah. My I think it was I don't remember how old he was at the time, but my now 9-year-old was watching. He's like, whoa! Like, just, eyes wide. Thought it was the coolest thing ever. And it's like, this is how you need to watch these.
Yeah.
Because there is that wonder and everything. So, like, my grouchy, these stories are predictable is alleviated when the kids are like, oh man, the Krulok was actually, it was Chief Logray the whole time.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right. Like the era in which you watch them matters so much. We had my younger brother Steve on with us in the last episode, and he loves the prequels and has always loved the prequels. And a lot of that probably is because, I took him to see The Phantom Menace in theaters when he was 6. And I was 16, we're sitting there and watching it. And those for him just like clicked perfectly. And even as a 16-year-old, I was like, I'm not really sure what I'm looking at here. So you're right.
What is this
it
exactly?
Changes, Misa confused. But you're right. I mean, the
funny things.
Intended audience really makes a difference.
Yeah. My oldest, like, my kids have grown up watching Star Wars. It was mandatory.
Of course.
Not an option. At one point, we were talking about things, and my oldest, he would have been 6, 7, somewhere around in there. He's like, do you guys remember when we all found out that Darth Vader was the bad guy? I mean, talk about plot twist.
Yeah.
We're like, what? No, like, that's established.
We know that. Yeah.
All of the cultural, you want to talk about archetypes, like all of the cultural everything about the bad guy is like intentionally inserted in Darth Vader. And you were the one person who was like, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
What? Nobody saw that coming. It's like, literally everyone did.
At the beginning.
Struggled so much as a teenager. But,
that's right.
Yeah, he came along.
How come so many stormtroopers are not The good guys can't die.
Yeah, right.
They're in white.
So true.
Well, in conclusion, I feel like this works as Star Wars shorts. I think it works as holiday stuff. And I loved the Ewok content, so I'm it's just a happy Life Day for me.
Overall, I enjoyed it. I thought the two. I'm glad we read both of those, because just talking about the Krulok, talking about both of them kind of made it a little bit more 3-dimensional.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and it was a solid. Maybe next year, Steve, if you're feeling extra festive, you can get an old paper book like I have here. And read through the whole thing, because I think it's worth it. I think it's worth to read. So
yeah, all right.
Well, Jesse, thanks for coming back for our holiday episode. I don't know, Jesse's doing the Vulcan salute, everybody, and I want to apologize on behalf of this Endorian Life and the entire Radio Meanwhile network for this slap in the face that we're looking at right now. I don't know what we're going to talk about next Life Day, guys. I'm not sure. So we got a year.
We're going to talk about Life Day.
Steve, why don't you make a movie and we'll evaluate that?
I'll write a book.
We did for our Halloween special. We did watch an Ewok fan film, and it was a good time. So maybe there's a Life Day fan film out there that we can find.
Hey, my kids are into making movies. Maybe we can get them to do an Ewok thing or something.
I love it. Yeah,
we'll call it the Life Day special. The Star Wars Life Day special.
Yeah.
That's what it should be called.
It's a great title. All right.
It's going to be amazing.
Next time, we are going to be back to covering the droids. It's been a long time. Steve and I needed some time to recover from watching the earlier droids episodes. And remember, we are going to switch to the movie format. So we're going to be watching the movie version of the next 4 episodes that's collected as The Pirate and the Prince. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. Fellas.
Right, I can't wait.
I know. It's going to be fun. Happy Life Day, everybody.
And also with you.
Day. Right. Oh man, he has to every time. This Endorian Life was brought to you by the Radio Meanwhile Network. Make sure you check out the holiday specials on the other Radio Meanwhile Network shows, including Have Yourself a Morlock Little Christmas on Previously on X-Men, and Time for Her to Come Home for Christmas, starring Shanae Grimes Beach on 9021 Here We Go! Plus, the return of 90s music got me like after the new year. Happy Life Day!
Happy Life Day!
Happy Life Day!